Okay, is this thing working? This is my first time doing it on my laptop here, so hopefully it looks like my voice is coming through. Alright, I just heard something on there. Okay, so let me start off with this PowerPoint. Um, so just to kind of get the basic stuff out of the way here. So the big idea is that diets high in carbohydrates and processed foods cause bad bacteria to grow in places we don't want it to grow. It'll grow and it will start migrating from the large intestine to the small intestine. And the small intestine is where 90% of all of our absorption occurs. So when we have yeast, mold, fungus, bacteria, all inside of our small intestine, what they're doing is they're eating our nutrients and then they poop out these things like yeast. They don't poop normal poop. They poop chemicals. They're hormone disruptors, endocrine disruptors, neurotransmitters, all these different type of things that cause havoc and chaos in our bodies. Things that are not supposed to be happening at all. And they mimic, and they disrupt stuff or they mimic these hormones or whatever. And they also poop out things like toxic acids. So, and the reason why we want to get rid of those and we want good bacteria is because the good bacteria actually creates some B vitamins, creates good acids like butyric acid to help us to actually digest fats and stuff like that later on in the digestive tract. And we need strong stomach acid to be able to clean out the small intestine and for high nutrient uptake, because without to really pull apart everything, but without that acid, it's just not going to happen. And we're not going to have strong stomach acid if we're eating too many carbohydrates and processed foods. It's just we need potassium. We need certain foods that come from uh, eating a certain way, eating healthily, to be able to create strong acids and to be able to break down foods, to be able to create enough enzymes. These things are 80% of your immune system is in your gut. 80% of your whole immune system is inside of your gut. All right, now just think of that. If we have 85% of your, what do you call it? I can't think of it. It's still early in the morning. Oh my god, what is it called? The lymph system. Oh my god, the lymph. The lymph system, 85% of the lymph is in your gut. Okay, so, and that pretty much houses most of your immune system. Um, so pretty much that is, I mean, why is 80% of your immune system in your gut? Just think of that. That's because it's where all your poop is. That's where all your digestion goes on. That's where the very beginning stage of how your body builds itself comes from, because you are what you eat. If you're not eating properly, then you're going to be unhealthy. Just look at the world around us. Look at how many obese people there are. I mean, they're even normalizing obesity now. So, that all it's, and because of all this, obviously they want us sick. They want us sick to not to be able to control us more. It's very simple. Strong stomach acid and gut flora balance is of utmost importance. Yes, it is. Like I said, 8% of the immune system is in the gut. SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, is most likely the most underdiagnosed disease ever. And I think that's true. Leaky gut as well. Those two are kind of, um, they're pretty much like one and the same almost, I would say. And the thing about SIBO is that it's very hard to diagnose. You have to get very specific tests. But the thing is, it's if you are overweight, if you are skinny, if you are any type of like sickness or like disease, and if you have a history of eating poorly, if you eat like McDonald's or Burger King or whatever else other fast food there is, right? You most if you're an American, you most likely have SIBO. Uh, you need an abundance of electrolytes like potassium, sodium, calcium, and magnesium. Potassium largely comes from uh, vegetables. So don't think like you hear potassium, it's from bananas. Like you would need to eat, I think it's 16 bananas in one day to have your daily amount of potassium. So that's not really feasible. Sodium, calcium, magnesium. You don't really need to worry about sodium things. But these things can cut. You can get these through meats though. So and I'm gonna go over after this. I'm gonna go over the carnivore diet because I was on the carnivore diet for the past month and a week, and I was doing fine. So I'm gonna go over that in a little while. Um, all disease stems from the gut, from Hippocrates, and that's over 2,000 years ago, and he was absolutely correct. Like I said, 80% of the immune system is in the gut, and that's a reason why. Okay, when you can take the small intestine, right? If you take your intestine and if you spread it out, if you just flatten it all out, it's the size of a tennis ball court. Okay, that is so huge when you think of it. The size of your intestine flattened out. If you take 1 cup full of bad bacteria and you just spread it on a tennis ball court, that does nothing. That covers like nothing. So just imagine how much stuff can hide in your intestine, right? Now think of a sausage, okay? Sausage is lined, natural casing sausage is lined with pig intestine, okay? And that's not very different from your own intestine. Look at how thin that intestine is. It's only 1 cell thin, okay? That's how thin that is. It's a very strong cell, right? But when you see someone making sausage, you see how it works out, right? Like it just like spreads right out as soon as the meat goes inside the sausage. It just like, and look how thin it is. It's translucent. That's your intestine. That's how thin your intestine is. I mean, just think of that. That's why leaky gut and SIBO is just so easy to contract if you don't have the proper amount of health. Only 2 to 3% of Americans are healthy, and that's evident just looking around. Someone may look healthy, but they're really not. And this goes into mental health. Mental health goes into the immune system. That goes into the diet. People may look healthy, but they're not. It's a very fine line between healthy and not healthy. It's very easy to cross that line. Soils are so poor that large amount of vegetables are needed. Farms, agro-industrial farming, they don't replenish the soils. They put in a couple like toxic things, and then like they put in some like fertilizer, and that's it. They're not really letting the soil replenish itself naturally to restore all the potassium and all the phytonutrients that are needed. Insulin and cortisol resistance. So sugar is a drug. Okay, the human body only needs the required nutrients for a human body is fat, protein, vitamins, minerals, and water. Right? There is nothing at all that says that we need sugar, okay, or carbohydrates. There is no such thing as a essential carbohydrate. That is a complete lie. You never ever have to eat a single carb your entire life to survive. All right, and this is a very important thing to understand. Uh, Extremely important. Okay, because people are selling these things like you need fiber. Okay, what now? If you watch my video the first video on detoxing that I wrote for Cindy on detoxing, fiber feeds the bacteria. Okay, that is, you don't need fiber at all. Like if people think you need fiber to have good poops. Like that's not what makes you poop. Is called peristalsis. Peristalsis is the wave in your intestine, in your stomach. It's even in your esophagus, down to your stomach, through your intestine, large intestine, and out through your colon. You have a singular wave that just goes through your body. Okay, think of it as like a wave, really, and it's just it just massages everything out. Like you don't need fiber at all. So what happens is when people eat carbs, right, you spike insulin. When you eat too many carbohydrates and also too much protein, this also happens with protein. But eating too much protein, that's not as easy as people think it is. Um, but what happens is you're spiking insulin, okay, and this when insulin it's the only hormone that will make you gain weight. All other hormones will make you lose weight. So if you have someone that's a type 1 diabetic where their pancreas doesn't make any more insulin, they're generally very, very skinny. Okay? What happens to them is that they've eaten so much sugar in their life that their pancreas just gave up. All the cells in their body are communicating to the pancreas. All right, well, the thing is, I have to go over resistance. So the more you go over resistance, like the more you eat carbohydrates, you're going to get resistant to the insulin. Okay, because all you're doing is just spiking insulin constantly giving insulin, and all insulin wants to do is it wants to take glucose and shove it into the cells. It just wants to shove glucose into the cells. Okay, insulin is like the key to open up the gate to the cell. Okay, and put in nutrition. When insulin is present, a cell will not take in vitamins and minerals. It won't take in certain things because the insulin is blocking that, and it just wants to send in glucose. That's why obese people can starve to death. That's why fat people they can actually starve because they're not getting required nutrition into their cells. They have so much insulin in their body. So what happens is the cell eventually gets resistant to the insulin because there's so much of it that it starts to actually it tells the pancreas like I have enough, I don't need any more, but the person keeps eating more and more sugar, so the pancreas needs to make the insulin, and eventually that communication between the cell. I don't know if how loud the birds and people driving by are with this microphone, but hopefully it's not that bad. Uh, so eventually you make this resistance, okay? And the same thing is with cortisol. Now I'm gonna get on this in a little bit, but cortisol resistance is due to stress, and that's like stress is probably next to diet. It's like these are like number one and two things. Stress you need it. They're almost tied because they're related to one another between stress and eating, but then how the body responds to stress and how it responds to the eating. So stress is like the biggest thing that we need to get rid of, but that's so hard. Okay, so just a quick diagram. When you look at how the body works here, um, it's very simple. You have the food goes into your stomach, the muscles in the stomach churn your food. back and forth, kind of like a washing machine almost, but there's like two of them, and then it's gonna go down into your duodenum, right? And you're gonna have the gallbladder is gonna squirt out some bile, and the bile is it's like a detergent to help break down fats. It helps further break down food. Pancreas is gonna send out enzymes. It's also gonna send out, I think it's sodium bicarbonate, to help neutralize the acidity, and then it's going to get digested through all the small intestinal tract, goes into the large intestine, and the large intestine, that's the colon, that's where all of the beneficial bacteria should be. All right, there should be very little bacteria in the small intestine. It should be all in the large intestine, right? And you can see where the ileocecal junction is, where the ileocecal valve is. That is where the bacteria will start to migrate. And if you have an issue with stomach acid, once you start taking acidifiers, now with heartburn, right? I mentioned this before with heartburn, is that if you have heartburn, you should be taking acidifiers. Heartburn means you need more acid. It does not mean you take antacids, okay? Heartburn is literally the body being intelligent. Okay, the body is intelligent, and the body is telling us that burning sensation is an indicator that we need more of the acid. Okay, it's once you hear it, it's common sense. Once you realize and once you start taking these acidifiers, you will feel that the ileocecal valve will start to close, and the problem is because a lot of people, they don't have strong enough stomach acid. Not because this all deals with calcium too, because we need to break down food enough and to digest it enough to have calcium to help close these valves. Okay, it's all very connected. And you also have a valve where the stomach meets the small intestine. Those two valves, the ileocecal valve and the other valve, will start to close once you take these acidifiers. And obviously the esophageal valve will close because now you have enough acid, and you're not going to feel that splashing of the acid coming up into your esophagus. Okay, so that valve will close. So acid plays a very important part in closing these valves and keeping things from backing up, okay, or going out too fast. So this is kind of old. I've been, because of school and I just haven't really had the motivation to live stream, because my headphones broke, and the only way I can like do anything is on my laptop, and I don't like using my laptop. This is for school. I would rather just be on my desktop, but I don't have headphones, so I'm like, whatever. So this is kind of old. I've lost about 30 pounds now, but it's all like visceral fat. It's really weird. And I've gained muscle back because I used to be big into working out, and I'm starting to do like light workouts now, but it's not as serious as it used to be. I used to be super into weightlifting. I mean, if you've been following my videos like for a while, my geoengineering videos, pretty much all of those are recorded from me going home from either going to or coming home from the gym. Um, So, lost 25 pounds the past 5 months, gained around 10 pounds of muscle mass. I've been on the ketogenic diet, less than 20 grams of carbs, excluding vegetables. I don't count my big salad. Like I have one of those big NSF, those like you see in the kitchens, big metal, like stainless steel bowls. I use it's like a mixing bowl. And NSF means that it's certified for kitchen use. I just use one of those big bowls. I chop up a bunch of cabbage, put in a bunch of pickled vegetables, avocado, balsamic vinegar with olive oil, celery. I put in some pink Himalayan salt. Put in some fresh ground pepper. Like I have my own mortar and pestle where I crush these things myself, because what I've learned is that crushing, you want to eat food as whole as possible. If you get ground pepper, okay, a lot it becomes oxidized. The antioxidants, right? Just think of that word, antioxidant, right? The antioxidant becomes oxidized. It means that it's just think of it as rusting, right? When you open up an avocado or an apple, right? When it browns, that's oxidation, right? That's rusting for biomass. It's basically rust. Okay, you don't want rust. You don't want to be eating rust, and that's what happens with all food basically. When it's processed, it becomes oxidized and it becomes pretty much useless. Um, I've been doing intermittent fasting. I changed up the diet because I did the carnivore diet, but for the most part, what I was doing was around 20 hours of fasting, and then I would eat for 4 hours, and I would do, and I was just kind of changing it from 22 to 2, 23 to 1. On the 23 to 1 intermittent fasting days, it's really hard getting in all the required food. So if you have a problem eating that much food, like this, like 7, 10 cups of vegetables with some meat and some fat, then what you're gonna have to do is like do like a 18, like an 18 and 6, and have like 2 meals. Eat your fat and your meat, at least the majority of the meat in your first meal, and then after like 3 hours or 4 hours, have your next meal later that day, like like 4 or 5 hours later. It's a lot easier doing it that way. From what I've seen, a lot of people find it easier to do the two smaller meals than the one big meal. I'm good both ways. So for me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to heal something called seborrheic dermatitis. It's an autoimmune disease. It's basically it's a gut disease. It was what it comes down to. Because of all the vaccines I was put through, I was in the military. I served in the Air Force. And if you're not knowledgeable about what happens in basic training and well throughout the military services, they just they just load you up with vaccines, and the vaccines that they give you in the military are usually um, like testing. They're like testing, or it's like a trial vaccines. It's terrible. But the thing is also is that my entire life, my childhood, and all that has been extremely stressful, and I'll go over that. So the seborrheic dermatitis is being beaten. Like I don't need my prescription cream anymore, called like ketoconazole cream. I don't need that anymore. It's like I used to have breakouts where it would be extremely bad, but now it's like it's very minimal, so it's going away. Uh, this is the supplementation that I've been taking. Um, I would like I would like to just stick with food, but because I'm dealing with certain well, I have leaky gut too, leaky gut, all this type of like SIBO. These are things that these are the main causes of the seborrheic dermatitis because of my immune system going all haywire because of having the wrong things um, in the wrong places in the wrong time. So for supplementation, you've probably heard about glutamine to help repair muscles. The thing is though, is that the dosages that the scoops that you would get in the little tubs, that is like very insufficient. Okay. Now, like I said, if you need to repair your intestine, just think of that a tennis ball court and taking one of those small scoops and then spreading it on the whole entire tennis ball court. Like you're not going to have like that's not anything. So I was doing half cup dosages, and I could feel the difference. Collagen peptides. That's collagen is the glue that sticks everything together. Garlic. I've been taking some garlic pills. Essential oils. These are the garlic and the essential oils. These are antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. Okay, so this is what I've been taking. This is also anti-parasitic. These are all really parasites. And I'm going to be referring to these things really as parasites. here on out, pretty much. Bentane, I've been taking bentane hydrochloride. I also took berberine hydrochloride. These, don't be scared of hydrochlorides. Like, it's your body makes stronger versions of hydrochloride, so you don't need to worry. You actually need the chlor. You actually need the hydrochlorides. That's the thing. You actually need it. And if you don't have enough of it, then you're not going to be digesting well. Apple cider vinegar. I pretty much drink apple cider vinegar every single day. Actually, I've been drinking it every day for like 8 months now. Um, I love it. Lemons, a lot of lemons. I've slowed down on the lemons because I would buy organic lemons and they're expensive. Um, Colostrum, I'm taking colostrum for my immune system. I don't take it a lot. I take like a little bit, like half a tablespoon a day at night, um, because that's another expensive thing. Colloidal silver, wow. So I experimented over, I think it was like January. I did an experiment and I didn't wash my hands. I didn't like have any fear of like being around sick people and like be and like there's a lot of dirty stuff, right? So I was actually at the chiropractor and he was sick. Now and like he was coughing and everything. I'm like, oh god. But I was like, whatever, I'm gonna try this out. And I got sick, right? Big surprise, I got sick. And I tried colloidal silver. And I did a I think it was like 20 sprays. I did 20 sprays from this colloidal silver that I have, and holy moly, like my thyroid, my neck just like started swelling up, and I could just feel my esophagus just like it was whatever it was doing. The silver was just massacring whatever was breaking down my esophagus. It was colloidal silver works. Okay, I'm just gonna say that it actually works. And resveratrol. I stopped taking resveratrol because I just added in some blueberries and blackberries and raspberries to my diet. I don't eat those often though. So mostly carnivore diet and slight FODMAP foods with electrolytes and whole food supplementation, potassium citrate, magnesium, and pink salt. So this is kind of old. So I think this is when I was like thinking about doing the carnivore diet, and I was like transitioning to it. Um, is there a slide where I talk about? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna talk about the carnivore diet. I did the carnivore diet for over a month, about a month and a week, and I felt absolutely amazing. Now I would not recommend the carnivore diet unless you know for a fact what you're doing, um, because you need to be eating egg yolks, right? You need to be eating egg yolks. You need to be eating liver. Okay, eat liver, eggs, hot. Okay, but all of this needs to be grass fed. All it needs to be grass fed. It all needs to be pasture raised. Without these things, like you're just gonna get worse. You're gonna get sicker. Okay, and that's why, like, if you eat just store bought meat, you should be taking an omega-3 supplement like cod liver oil. Cod liver oil is huge. That is so amazing, cod liver oil. But the thing about the carnivore diet is that you're eating zero carbohydrates, right? And like I said, the human body only needs there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. So what the carnivore diet does is it basically first of all, it starves out a lot of the bacteria, yeast, mold, fungus, the parasites that need to survive on sugar, on fiber. Okay, you're starving those things out, and while you're doing that, you can take things like the essential oils and the garlic to help kill them even further. Things like and it really helps if you have yeast problem. Um, So with a carnivore diet, it's a really great way to learn about um, food sensitivities and food allergies that you may have not known about previously. So I personally found out I have a dairy sensitivity through this. I have a dairy sensitivity, and I have a sensitivity to nightshades. Nightshades are things like tomatoes, trains. Let me tell you, trains around here, like people just whoever the conductors are, they just go off on those horns. Like they won't even be near an intersection, and I'm the only person apparently that complains about it. That's so insane to me. But anyways, nightshades are things like tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, right? All the green peppers, red peppers, jalapenos, the stuff that like has capsaicin in it. Those are all nightshades, and I found out I'm sensitive to those. So that's what's good about the carnivore diet. And I really should say it's not that hard to do. It's really not that hard to do. Um, let me make sure I'm still streaming here. Okay, am I still streaming? The thing is, it's really expensive because all you're doing is you're buying meat, and the thing is, you really shouldn't be eating that much protein. You should be eating more fat than you are protein. So with the fat, it's like, what do you eat for fat? It's you eat things like tallow. Tallow is really great. You eat it comes from egg yolks. But for me, it just got to the point where I was satisfied with the carnivore diet and how it was for me. So I ended up just transitioning back to what I was doing before with the one meal a day. I also you get really hungry on the carnivore diet. You have like a really like instinctual hunger. You get like, it's you if you I was going through ground beef like it's no one's business. I was eating so much of it. And it's really, for me, it was really hard doing one meal a day for that. I would have like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 3 meals for that. So if you can do it, it's worth it, but it's expensive. Um, anyways, right now, pretty much what I'm doing is I'm going back to what I was the one meal a day, sometimes 2 meals a day with the intermittent fasting. I'm going to incorporate much more longer term fasting. Like I've been doing 3-day fasts. Those have been really easy, actually. It's really easy doing a 3-day fast once you get adjusted to the ketogenic diet and 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day. It's actually quite simple. Pickle fermented foods. You have to avoid these like Vlastik type of pickles. Those are just cucumbers inside of vinegar. They're not actually pickled or fermented. You'll know real pickles when you see like it should be cloudy brine that they're in, and like sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is more of a fermented type of thing. The pickles, you'll know it because it's in a cloudy brine. Grass-fed meats, like I said, and organic everything. Another thing too to note is that once you start eating clean, once you start to detox, you notice um, if you have a sensitive immune system, you'll notice that when you eat something that isn't organic, like like a typical ground beef from the grocery store, you'll know when you eat that. Other supplements, so vitamin D3, the sun, okay, sunlight is food. Sunlight is literally food. You need sunlight, okay. Vitamin D is the precursor to your white blood cells, okay? It's the precursor for so many things. Like I can't even, it's so insane. You need vitamin D3. You should always have vitamin D. If you live out here in Pennsylvania like I do, right? Right. I mean, for the past 3 days, thank God, it's been sunny out. But since September, it's been overcast basically for like 8 months. No, I'm not even joking. Um, So you need vitamin D3. The recommended amounts of D3 is so low. There is really no upper limit to D3. The only thing that they recommend, like the 600 IU's a day of vitamin D3, that's only to avoid rickets. That's only to avoid, you know, dying basically from lack of sunlight. That's not sufficient. That's not sufficient for your immune system. That's not sufficient for a healthy human being. Healthy human being should be in abundance. You should be in abundance of these things. So you need to be healthy in order to heal. Okay. Um, I can't. I could go on and on and on about D3. So K2, vitamin K2 is MK7. Um, you want to take these vitamin D3 and K2 is MK7. You want to take these in conjunction with one another. These will decalcify. This will decalcify your pineal gland. It will decalcify the soft tissues. What these things do is it removes the calcium from the soft tissues and it puts it into places where it's needed. Okay, it puts them into the calcium ion channels for your muscles. It puts them into the bones and it puts them into places where it needs to be instead of being hypercalcemic and having heart problems. Okay, hardened arteries, hardened blood vessels. This comes from hypercalcemia because we're not eating fatty enough foods. Okay, you need your K2. This is why I no longer promote. I'm not like let me. I hate vegans and I hate vegetarians. Okay, because that is a cult. These are cults. Okay, you should. Every person eats meat. Every person eats vegetables. Okay, unless you're talking about like the Eskimos. But the thing is, they're eating everything. They eat heart, they eat liver. Okay, and the liver is so nutritious. Okay, if you eat liver, you're getting pretty much almost everything you need. It's just like an egg. Liver is actually better than an egg, to be honest. Grass-fed liver. Theanine. Theanine. If you the channel. I'm gonna show you guys a YouTube channel, and this is where the SIBO video that I linked from my other video came from. Is theanine. If you're like me, I'm a low dopamine. I run on low dopamine. And like so I'm more prone to addictions, and theanine is a chemical that will make you feel good. So I've been taking that. I've been taking choline, desiccated beef organs. I stopped taking these because I just eat them. I buy liver and I buy heart. So I'm eating these things anyways. So I stopped doing that. And I should say the choline helps remove fat from the liver. So if you possibly had a fatty liver, if you drank alcohol, if you were obese, if you were have any type of liver problems, if you have right shoulder pain, then you probably have a fatty liver. But you can get that through egg yolks. That's in egg yolks. NAC, glutathione. I was taking that just for an antioxidant, master antioxidant. It's so powerful. It's kind of crazy. Digestive enzymes. I take these seldomly when if I'm eating a protein rich meal. If I haven't eaten a lot of meat and I kind of have and I need to eat like on the bottom right here, you see that? That's called Braunschweiger. That's a liver and beef pate pretty much, and I buy that from U.S. Wellness Meats, all grass fed and everything, and it's so nutrient dense, it's insane. I might take that. The digestive enzymes, that's very seldom, but it's good to have if you just kind of feel like you want it. Stinging nettle, milk thistle, those two, these are just herbs, whole food herbs to help detox the liver, to help strengthen the liver, and to help pretty much as detox. Zinc. Zinc is if you have yeast problems, yeasts like Candida will soak up your zinc, and zinc is a massive player, a huge player in the immune system in the creation of natural killer cells, of the creation of white blood cells. So zinc is a big deal. And without good enough stomach acid, you're not going to be able to absorb that zinc. You also need good bacteria too to be able to fully absorb as much as you can. Olive leaf extract, that's helps out. These are all whole food things too. These aren't like um, these aren't really broken down much. This is like pretty much just breaking broken up leaves. Um, Olive leaf extract, I would take that. That's another cleanser for the intestine, antimicrobial, anti-parasitic. Ashwagandha is adaptogenic root, and you can take that if you have stress problems. And stress is like I don't I'm gonna have to go over stress. Maybe I didn't put in the slide for stress, but it's gonna help balance out your cortisol levels, and it's a very calming herb. It's kind of amazing what ashwagandha can do. But the thing is, though, ashwagandha is a um, um, people have food sensitivities to that, so you might just take a little bit and see how your body reacts. Um, grass fed ghee, grass fed ghee is amazing. There's no less if you're dairy sensitive, you don't need to worry about ghee because it's so clarified that there's no lactose or anything in it. And it has butyric acid, which is helps heal your colon. And it's a great way to get fat. Bragg's nutritional yeast, that's where like that has selenium, all the like pretty much all your major B vitamins. So I would recommend that if you do have a like kind of like a yeast problem, I wouldn't take it. Just have egg yolks. Make sure you're getting pasture raised, happy eggs. Coconut oil, MCT oil, those are, I mean, that's, everyone talks about those. U.S. Wellness Meats, I highly recommend this company, but they are pricey. So I buy, things that are like on the cheaper end, like the Braunschweiger. I don't buy steaks. Like that's just, I just, there's just way too much money in those. I eat mostly ground beef. Um, and that's pretty much my extent of like getting that. It's just too expensive to buy steaks from these people. I do butcher box now. Right now, I'm doing butcher box, and because I'm in college, I get a discount. So I do eat steaks and like like some pork chops and stuff like that, but not from U.S. Wellness Meats, which is way too expensive. I do my homemade bone broth from cattle and chickens. I'll buy organic whole chickens from a local farm out here, and I'll take the carcass and I make my bone broth. I get all my beef bones. I get those from all local, but you can get them from U.S. Wellness Meats. They have actual bone broth bones that you can buy and make the broth yourself. I just do a basic bone broth. I don't put in any vegetables. I don't do any herbs or anything like that. I just throw the meat in or the bones in with some apple cider vinegar and then some water, and that's about it. Wild Planet wild caught salmon. That's you can get it on Amazon for kind of cheap. I think you can get the 12 canned wild caught salmon. It's canned for like $40. That's not that bad compared to stores. Organic berries, organic blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. Usually in a smoothie every once in a while. They're high in carbs. Blackberries and strawberries aren't very high in carbs, but blueberries are. So I'll do that every once in a while. Raw goat and sheep cheese. If you have a dairy sensitivity, these are great replacements. And if you do have a dairy sensitivity, just think of the hotter the cheese, right? If you really need to take a knife to it, right? Hard cheddar, hard Parmesan, these really hard cheeses, those are better for you. You want to avoid the wet cheeses, right? Like mozzarella, okay, brie, things like that. You want to kind of avoid those. Matcha, decaf coffee. You have to avoid if you're watching my channel, that means we're dealing with stress more so than most people, okay? Because we're actually intelligent and we see what's going on in the world. And because of that, we have a bit more stress than other people. But the thing is, though, it's really like it comes down to faith in God. Really, like it's not. I'm not talking about religions. Okay, I'm talking about God is. It's all. He's in, like caffeine. What caffeine does is it excites it. It's a stimulant, and it stimulates. The fight or flight response is that's what's going to get your heart rate going. That's what it's the opposite of the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic, what that does is that's rest and digest. Okay, now just put that in your mind: rest and digest versus fight or flight. Okay, sympathetic nervous system. When you stimulate that, you're putting yourself into a stressed state. All right, that is not. If you can see people who are strung out on caffeine, you can tell them when you talk to them. You can tell who they are. Like you can tell that they're strung out on caffeine. You can tell that they have issues, and they get jittery if they're. And you also get addicted to caffeine. It's just like getting addicted to sugar. It's a drug. These things are all drugs. You really should avoid those things. So matcha, decaf coffee, and there is a little bit of caffeine in matcha, green tea, and decaf even has a little. I think decaf has at most 5% caffeine, which is very little. It's less than green tea and less than matcha. Eggs and chia seeds. Chia seeds are amazing. I would don't take much of it because chia seeds will actually soak up water from your system. It'll draw water out. Eggs. I get my eggs from a local farm that is absolutely beautiful, beautiful egg. So what am I doing? So 5 months later. So this is a little bit old, but so Dr. Berg's probiotic. I'm taking those. Um, I took his gallbladder formula, the trace minerals. I take those every once in a while because if you're eating your vegetables in organ meats, you don't need as much. Okay, if you're just eating grass or if you're just eating muscle fiber from an animal, right? Just like ground beef, that's not going to have these trace minerals. You need to be eating the organs. Okay, that's so important when you think about the carnivore diet. You need to be eating organs too. So the trace minerals and is the advanced adrenal formula. I wanted to start taking that again, but I bought my own ashwagandha, and ashwagandha. I have organic ashwagandha, and I take that every once in a while. So pretty much one massive salad every single day. Big seven, and my salads are so delicious. I put in the stuff I put in, it's just too much to really list. But I look forward to my salad because it is so amazing. Once you really get on this diet, once you really understand what God has designed us for, okay, God, we have to we have to realize what God. We're born, okay. A baby, an infant has the knowledge. It has justice. A baby knows justice. It knows justice. It knows right from wrong. Okay. It knows. It has knowledge. Okay. This knowledge comes from God. Just like how animals have their nature, humans have our nature. Okay. Our nature comes from God. Animal nature comes from God too. Okay, that's why they live by their nature. We need to live by our nature, but the thing is, we're being taken away from our nature, right? Look at men with circumcision. Okay, circumcision is literally genital mutilation. Just think of that. It's something that men will never be able to heal from. Now think of this too. The most populous that has been circumcised are Muslims, and just think of how insane those people are, right? They have sex with little boys, and they think that's okay. This is not a part of nature. Religions, these cults, these are all cults. Okay, being a Christian, being a Muslim, being a Buddhist, being a vegan, okay, being a vegetarian, being a Republican, being a Democrat. These are cults. These all take us away from God's nature. If we got rid of all of these cults, we would live with our nature, we would be living with God. All right. Don't be afraid to eat meat. Don't be afraid to eat meat. Okay. Just think of, why do thorns exist? Why do thorns exist? Why do lectins exist? For someone like me, I forage. I forage all the time. I'm always looking for food to eat. I eat lots of dandelions. I eat lots of wild berries, wine berries, blackberries, raspberries. Um, and I eat, was it plantains? I eat tons of stuff that I can find. There's like too much, watercress. Um, and but the thing is, though, I've like the amount that I can eat versus how many vegetables and plants there are that are poisonous, toxic. All right, you can't just walk out into the woods and just pick up a mushroom and eat it. You can't just walk out into the woods and grab a bunch of random berries and eat it. You can't just grab some leaves and eat it, because those things are toxic. They're poisonous, right? Like 95%, 98% of like plant life is toxic to us. Um, but animals, look at all the animals. They're here for us. Okay, they're here to sustain us, right? But we have to live in balance. That's the problem. We have to live in balance. If we're not in balance with nature, then everything becomes all wackadoo. We start leaving our nature. And that's what the system is designed to do. The system is designed to take us away from our our God-given nature, and to put us into the machine. Okay, this is all a machine. All of this is a machine. It's all artificial. Okay, just think of that. What is natural? What is artificial? And if we live with nature, everything is right. Everything is perfectly fine when we're living with nature. But it's when we go away from that we get sick, that we get thrown into chaos. That people just language is just all a bunch of mouth flapping, just back and mouth flapping. What are you even talking about? What are people talking about? Back and forth, blah 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 blah. Anyways, um, so yeah. Anyways, rotating from one meal to two meals a day. One meal is eaten within 2 hours. Two meals eaten within like 8 hours. Within the eating period, you shouldn't be really scared of eating snacks. It's only when you're fasting. Only during the fasting period, you should not eat a single thing. Uh, Only just drink some water and some apple cider vinegar, like with the water. Like I like having my in the morning. What I do in the morning is I'll have my distilled water with apple cider, like 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of liquid stevia. Stevia is like the only sweetener I'll go for, and I use the liquid stevia. Throw that in there. And I drank that as a morning drink. That helps with lowering insulin and helps lowering the cortisol. Um, I got the pollen is starting to agitate me here. I can't be inside when I'm on Wi-Fi. Like I don't. The only time I have Wi-Fi on is when I'm outside on my deck. Um, Walk at least 3 miles a day. Light workout, light core workouts. Like for me, I do that tire flipping thing. I don't go to I don't go to those crazy well, I don't know what they call them, like CrossFit, I guess it's called CrossFit. That those people are kind of crazy. I don't do that stuff. But at college, they have a tire thing I can flip, push-ups, Turkish get-ups. If you don't know what those are, look it up. It's a really good workout. Planks, yoga, tai chi, stretching. You don't need, like I said, I used to really be into working out. I used to really be into bodybuilding and getting my strength up and stuff. But I've learned that that's a bunch of nonsense. The big muscles and all that kind of body dysmorphia. That's not really important at all. It's really just about general core strength. If you can, just go for walks, do some light workouts, and the diet will take care of everything for you. Massages, sauna. I really recommend going to the sauna if you can. Um, I actually did a colon hydrotherapy earlier this week, and it was amazing. It was so amazing. Um, you can go on Groupon. Go on Groupon and just find you can get things for really cheap on Groupon. Um, And one thing I've learned about Groupon too is that if you call up like a massage therapist and be like, hey, you know, this is really cheap on Groupon, and I know that Groupon takes a portion of the money. So if I just give you this cheap, like $30 hour long massage, if I just give you the $30, would that be okay? Because generally it's a one time deal for some massage therapists. Um, so yeah, just call them up and be like, hey, can I just give you the money instead of giving it to Groupon? Um, And there's also a company on Groupon called the Allergy Testing Company. You can send what you do is you send in some hair samples, and they'll do a hair test to see if you have any food allergies. Now, I did learn that I was completely gluten. I totally can't do gluten, um, and like things like some sardines and nuts and certain vegetables, like the nightshades. I found out I'm sensitive to the nightshades. I found that out first through this company, but I did it through my diet, and I found out I actually was. They're not 100% accurate, but it is pretty accurate, just for some things. So I would recommend going to the allergy testing company and just buying. I think it's like just get like the either the first or second tier. Don't get the most expensive one. The most expensive one is a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, I mean, you want to get these if you're gonna spend that much money, go to a doctor and get it done professionally. So I'm gonna go over these here, um, those things. So let me let me talk about stress. I want to talk about stress for a little bit. Let me check. Check see if make sure I'm still streaming. Um, okay, it looks like I'm still streaming. Let me talk about stress here. I have a bunch of other stuff I should go. I'm gonna be going over too. Actually, how long have I been going? I don't really care how long I've been going, to be honest. I'm not. Wow, an hour already? Oh my god. Um, so stress is a big deal. Okay, if you're in a bad relationship, if you have bad friends, you need to get out of those. Okay, it's either that or you really get to talking with them and getting over whatever the issue is. Um, sleep, things like sleep, you really need to have great, amazing sleep. You need to get to bed at around 10:30 at night, wake up at like 5:30 in the morning. That is the natural rhythm for the human body. That is the human body has waves, just like the peristalsis for digestion. The human body has waves of sleep, and we need to be feeling those again. We need to get back to feeling those. Um, and if you're not eating right, if you're too stressed out, you're gonna have problems sleeping. And stress is just it's so daunting on the adrenals, on the body, on the mind. And when people hear cortisol, when they hear things about cortisol, they're like, cortisol is the stress hormone. Stress or cortisol is the anti-stress. Cortisol is actually the anti-stress hormone because it's only when we're faced with stress that we release cortisol because cortisol is an anti-inflammatory and we become inflamed through stress. Okay, we become inflamed through external stress or internal stress through food or whatever. Um, and that's why what we're seeing now, okay, because people have been taken away from God. People have been taken away from God with this whole globe Earth, nihilistic, postmodern, Big Bang. There is, atheism. We've been taken away from God, and without God, without realizing that we've come from God, that God has gifted us with so many things. Without that understanding, we're just so stressed out. We really are. We become thrown into this artificial life of chaos, of artificiality. It's all nonsense. And it's only when we realize what God really is, and it's not this guy. It's not this like heavenly pearly gates. It's not this bearded dude in the clouds. It's not some Buddha, transcended, weird thing. That's not God is everything. It's God. God is nature. God is what you can't. God is truth. God is truth, and God is right. Doing the right things. It's rightness. Okay. Because when you do something wrong, you're going against your nature. Okay. God is truth and rightness, and truth is a big. Truth and rightness. That's a lot. You don't just think of truth. Truth is truth. It's truth is huge. Nature is truth. All right. What is truth? Just think of how many things are truth. How much of it is natural and what is artificial. Okay. It's so that's such a huge topic to go over. But God is literally truth and rightness. Now let's think about lies, right? Lies and falseness. You cannot have falseness, you cannot have lies without truth. Okay? You can't have those things without rightness, right? But you can have truth without lies. Truth can easily exist without lies. It's very so that's why God is truth. That's why God is, because you can't subtract from those things. Those things can never be taken away from. They are complete and whole, no matter what happens. There is no such thing. Okay, lies have to come from truth. There is no other thing. You can't take truth from lies. It's only a one-way street. It's only a one-way street, and there's only truth and rightness. So with realizing what God is, that we've come from God, that should alleviate stress. That should help us ease ourselves from stress and make life a lot easier for us. Um, it's just it's really hard for people like me that people that subscribe to this channel, subscribe to all the other channels. Oh my God! Giant carpenter bee just flew in my face. These guys, like these carpenter bees, is like the ones that look like bumblebees. They're so nosy. They are like the most nosy bees ever, but they're super friendly. Anyways, yeah, so that for people like us, it's so hard. It's so hard to have to live rightly. I mean, because you got do you pay taxes? Are you paying taxes? Are you living artificially? Do you buy stuff from Amazon? Like all that feeds the beast. All that is just feeding the beast. It's like, that's it's so hard. It's so hard. Um, but the thing is, we're not. There is no savior coming for us. We have to be. We're on our own here. We have to save ourselves. But the thing is, we're all a community. We're all a community, and we have to just bear that burden of talking to other people about it. So need to get rid of stress. Stress is everywhere, and feel sympathy for men. Because a lot of stuff is out there for women right now, but just think of have you if any women are listening to this, have you been genitally mutilated at birth? Did you have a piece of your sex organ cut off at birth? That's so traumatic. That causes so much trauma to a human soul. It's so traumatic being genitally mutilated by a bunch of Jews and never being. It's something you cannot heal from ever. It sucks. And then going through the public school system, right? Like for me personally, my childhood my father was abusive. My mother is probably she's basically a borderline psychopath. Like my entire life after up until about 4 years ago, was just I was running constantly on the sympathetic nervous system, just fight or flight response, just fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. And once I realized about like the flat Earth and kind of just nature, learning more about nature, getting out of like the work, because once I started going to school full time, using my post 9/11 GI Bill, like, and I started to be able to relax and actually learn truth and learn about things and realize things, then it all started falling together. Realizing that evolution is just a lie. Evolution is bullshit. And once you see it, it's so obvious. I'm gonna get on to so I get this from my detox video. Subscribe to Dr. Berg, Dr. Berg's YouTube channel. He releases multiple videos every single day. And you can call him up on Fridays. He does his phone, his call-in show. Like this guy has saved my life. And you guys want to see a crazy, these are all Berg, right? Just listen to his Berg, name. Cause you have Dr. John Bergman. Okay. He's another one. So subscribe to his channel. He also saved my life. And then this guy, Beyond, this is where this guy has very, very in-depth videos, extremely intellectual. If you really want to learn about things, and this guy's name, right? This guy's name, this is a Swedish name too. All these Bergs, Rostenberg, Dr. Rostenberg. So he's like, these are all German, Swedish names. It's kind of funny. So his I want to talk about. Now, this is some research I've been doing a long time ago. This is back in December and January. I've been meaning to. I wanted to make a video about it, but it's still in the early stages. So, so let's just think about Jesus Christ. Let's think about Jesus. Let's think about the Bible. Let's think about what that stuff talks about, really. So what does Jesus really do, right? Let's take out the whole like fantastical stuff about all this, like him being resurrected and going on all this kind of like crazy stuff that he supposedly did. Let's think about who he was though as a person. Really, he was a dude that went around healing people. He went around healing people, okay, healing them of demons. And I'm pretty sure all these things are parasites. When you think of demons, they're basically parasites, okay? And they went around teaching people, right? He was like a teacher and a healer. And not only that, but he was called Jesus of Nazareth, a Nazarene, right? The Nazarene is associated with the Essenes. And the Essenes are people who are very focused on health, and they were able to. They knew how to heal people from parasites. So we have here the rod of Asclepius. Okay, Asclepius is the Greek guy who taught Hippocrates about medicine. He's a Greek god of medicine and everything. Okay, and this rod, which is often confused with the caduceus, and the caduceus is Hermes thing, right? And this is actually a parasite. This is actually a parasite. And you know what? I forgot. I forgot to bring up something from an audiobook. Shoot. Anyways, forget everything about the Radha. This whole Kundalini energy. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. So the rod of Asclepius. What this really is, okay? What this really is it's an ancient way of removing a parasite from the body. It's a certain when we go back to the ancient times, okay? People were not as knowledgeable as we are, and when you think of it, people are still dumb. They're just as dumb as the ancients, as those ignorant or those stupid ancients were. Like, they didn't really know anything. People are still like that, to be honest. They haven't really changed much. So when it comes to these the healers, right? So let me how do I, is this the right button here? Okay. So this is where the idea of the rod of Asclepius came from. Is this rod, the rod with the serpent around it was like it's basically like a stick. So there was a very common parasite that would burrow underneath people's skins. Um, and there was a way to get rid of them. And what they would do is they take a stick and they would tie a string around like a pot of the parasite, the worm, the maggot, whatever. And they would slow it because of how it would latch into the skin. They would slowly um, turn these the stick to pull it out, and it would take a while to do this. And basically, what this theory is that saying that this is where the idea of the rod of Asclepius came from, because this was a very common parasite. And like this pot here was, you know, the whole when Moses, so and so you know, where is it? So yeah, this pot is from Numbers. See, I haven't read this in a while because I actually pulled these up on different pages here, but uh, basically, it was a bronze serpent on a pole, which God told Moses to erect to protect the Israelites, who saw it from dying from bites of the fiery serpents, which God had sent to punish them for speaking against God and Moses. Um, King Hezekiah later instituted religious iconoclastic reform for and destroyed the brazen serpent that Moses had made. Um, So many Bible students have connected the rod of Asclepius with Nehushtan, where the stick and serpent were put together for. So really, in essence, what we're looking at, these parasites, these parasites that this is not a theory. For me, this is not a theory. This is actual history. This is actual history here. Parasites, and I have more evidence of this later on. It's just I just need to transition my mind from talking about my diet and everything and all that stuff to this, because this is all right. So these parasites, like I said before, they poop chemicals. These chemicals disrupt our natural system. um, and we also have to realize too is that we get seeded. Our mothers seed us when we're born, when we're in the womb. She seeds us with this bacteria, with these certain parasites. They're all really parasites in the end. Whether or not they're beneficial or they're negative is depending on the mother. Okay. Now let me just point this out. Jews are not considered a Jew unless you were born from a mother who is a Jew herself. Okay, now just keep that in mind when it comes to passing on, and that's what the mother does. She passes on her parasites to the baby. That's why ancient times we're also talking about, where you weren't in a hospital all sanitized and all sterile and everything. So now we need to think of that. We need to be thinking of what's being passed on to us. Now these things it also happens through latching on when the baby latches onto the mother's breast, when the baby is rubbed up against the mother's skin. All of this stuff passes on to the baby, and if you're not being ready of the immune system that she has is being passed on. The immune system, that's how it gets passed on, is through the breast milk from the mother to the child, and without that, the child is going to become infested with alien parasites, with alien things that are in the environment, without that immune system to defend the baby from it, and without the seeded bacteria that obviously, if the mother is still alive, if the mother has survived, if she was healthy enough to give birth to a healthy child, then her parasites were clearly quite fine. And back then, if you were healthy back then you're pretty healthy. Nowadays, you can be pretty unhealthy and give birth to a child. See, there's a big problem there. So taken these things into account, so a child is born with all these parasites on them, and then nowadays they're being fed formula, right? Which is it's just soy, corn, and wheat-based products. Like that's literally the opposite when it comes down to the chemistry of it. It's literally the opposite of the immune system because it causes inflammation. And I should mention too, inflammation. What inflammation really does is think of your nerves, okay? Your nerves with the dendrites and the little tentacles that reach out. They don't touch each other, okay? Those things aren't touching each other. They require neurotransmitters, hormones, and certain acids to communicate with one another. They're not physically touching each other. They need these messenger particles. When you have inflammation, inflammation separates those dendrites further away from each other, allowing more interruptions, allowing more disruption in your nervous system, which is like everything, okay, disrupting that. So that's what like a big problem with inflammation causes. So think of that when it comes to intelligence, okay, inflammation in the brain, in the second brain, which is in the gut. So just think of those things. Add all these things up. All 1 + 1 = 2. So when it comes to all right, so yeah, so the brazen serpent. So this whole rod of Asclepius, when you have Moses with his serpent, when they looked upon it, so all right, let me just go over fiery serpents real quick. The idea of a fiery serpent goes back a long time, and the reason why these things are called fiery serpents, actually, I need to open that back up. The reason why these things are called fiery serpents, okay, and that's why these things are called serpents, because they look like little snakes. They look like little snakes. Okay. So fiery serpents. The reason why they were called fiery is because the injury that those holes that they would bear into your skin or into your intestine or whatever, and it's because they were called fiery because those injuries burn. They actually feel like a burning sensation. That's why they were called fiery. And fiery serpents go back a long time. And I just want to read this one part. The fiery serpent lacks the ability to hear and speak properly. It is told that those who are visited by the serpent experience weight loss, exhibit signs of insanity, and eventually commit suicide. Okay, like, yeah. So, like, I mean, this is all of this, everything is based on your health. Everything is based on our health. So this is just looking more into the passages from Numbers where Moses and Jesus or Christ, like Christ is said to be the incarnation of the rod with the serpent, the rod of Asclepius. He is the incarnation of the healing mechanism. Okay, like he is the embodiment of that mechanism. That's what the Christ is. That's literally what the actual Christ word, not Jesus Christ, but the Christ. Okay, the Christ is literally the healer. He is the healer of these things. He has the knowledge. He has the actual gnosis of healing people. That's what the Christ does. That's what the Christ is. And that's who Jesus was. He was the healer of these things. So from Moses, people would look up so basically, like, people spoke out against, like, the idea, this whole idea. Do I have it up? Okay, so God and like, this is paraphrased, but and spoke against God and against Moses. Why have you led us up out of Egypt and to die in the wilderness? There is no bread or water, and we detest this wretched food. So, all right, so this is what's happening here, okay? Now, there is no bread or water, and we detest this wretched food. What this is, okay, what they're talking about is manna. They're talking about the perfect food that you can survive on. They're not talking about bread, like actual bread. They're talking about the bread, like the actual substance of life. Okay, what these people did, what this is all bullshit translation. Okay, what they're talking about is mana. All right, mana and water. Okay, the bread or water. Okay, this is the life-giving essence. And what they did was they're like, we don't want. They became selfish, and they said that nature, right, to die in the wilderness. Okay, what they're saying is to be with nature. They went against nature. They went against nature. They went against these things. So the Lord sent poisonous snakes among the people, and many of the Israelites were bitten and died. And then people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Intercede with the Lord and take the snakes away from us." So Moses. So I guess I probably should have brought up the whole thing, but eventually what he does is he brings up the rod with the serpent around it. He takes one of these snakes, okay, and he puts the snake around a rod, his staff or whatever, okay, and he puts it into the ground. And when the people looked at it, they were healed. When they looked at it, they were amazed and they were healed by looking at that. All right, so that's so they go against nature, okay, and they go into this artificial world that we're in now, okay? They're like, what God gave us, this life-giving essence, this natural born being in nature, this is not good enough. And they were like, look at we detest this wretched food, okay? And they were like, screw it. So what do they want? What do you want? What more do you want than nature and to be given the essence for life? What more do you need? Okay, and it's all this artificial chaos that we're seeing now. This is inevitable. These things are inevitable when you go against nature. That's why, like, the Native Americans, they were when they came across white people in their industrialization, the Native Americans were like, you understand that this all can only lead to one thing, to just pure and utter chaos, to division, and to power imbalance, being imbalanced with everything. Like it's intrinsic to our nature to know justice, to know right from wrong, and it's so this is what they're talking about here. This whole bronze serpent thing. This is what is actually happening. The people are going against it. They become selfish. They go against God. They go against God's law. And then what happens? They get filled with parasites. They get filled. They forget healing. They forget who they are. They forget all these things. What happens is they need saviors. They need these saviors, this like Messiah complex, to come save them because they've been lost, because they've been thrown away from God. So this is all of this is about healing. Everything, because once you are healed, or once you are healthy, you're with God. I mean, no, I know not everyone can be fully healed. Like, I know people that have had, gallbladders taken out, thyroids, they've had appendixes, circumcised, a lot of things you can't heal from. But I'm talking about, it's because of the system. It's because of this artificiality that we're here now. Okay, that's why it is the way it is. Okay, so the Eye of Horus, like, so I'm kind of going away from that. Well, let me bring up some references here. So this is from the Gospel of Peace, I think, from the Essene. And I'm still researching into this more. I'm still looking more into the Essenes. Because the Nazarenes or the Essenes, there is no such place as Nazareth. Nazareth wasn't real. It was like a scene, but anyways, so in the ground where their sick people's waters flow, okay, I can get into waters all day. Waters is so important. Flowed was polluted, and so great became the stench that none could remain there. And the devils left their bowels in the shape of multitudinous worms with which writhed in the slime of their inward uncleanliness, and they writhed in impotent rage after the angel of water had cast them out of the bowels of the sons of men. Right? So there's just more, like, and I can go on more about the parasites. Okay, so this Nazarenes. I'm researching these people. I just wanted to bring that up. Um, so the parasites, right? Look at watch this video. Watch this video right here. It's called "The Toilet: An Unspoken History." Now, if you wanna, if you really want to get into the whole what do you call it, the parasites and royalty, right? The whole, think of what I've talked about before about the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians were the purple people, the ancient Hebrews, right, who came up with phonetics. Phoenicians came up with phonetics, and how purple, they were the purple people because they found this certain mollusk, I think it was, out in the Mediterranean Sea to create purple dye, and why purple is considered the color of royalty. Okay, and if you want some evidence on this whole Jewish cabal and their control over everything, if you want some evidence, look at this, right? Look at this toilet in Unspoken History, and look into how parasitically, how many parasites were in the rich people, because rich people were the ones that had toilets, and this is a really cool document. Watch this and listen to what he says about rich people and how royalty were just ridden with parasites because of their opulence and decadence to foods and bad foods, like just eating sugar and all the just disgusting. If you do research into history, the people, it was actually the normal people ate healthy. They actually ate the way that I'm eating right now. They ate grass-fed meats. They ate things like asparagus and salads and spinach, and broccoli and cauliflower. They ate like very healthily. They ate tallow. They ate healthy fats, eggs. But it was the royalty that would eat like sugar and cupcakes and like just like the most disgusting food all the time, um, because they thought it was luxury, because they thought of how broken they love breaking down the food as much as possible, have it refined and all these things, and they were ridden with parasites, and all the toilets back then were like filled with worms. So just think of that. Just think of. I really hope my volume hasn't been going like over to make it sound all weird. Shit. Anyways, so yeah, watch this documentary. I want to talk about a couple things here. I like going to meet other people like me, and I came across this thing that's out here in Pennsylvania. It's out in Philadelphia called Anacadelphia. But then I was occultism, cryptocurrency, and anarchy. Like I'm okay with anarchy, but then I started watching some of these there's something going on here. There's something going on with these people. Like this guy's name, that's this guy. That's his actual name. What's up with that? Squared? Like, there's something wrong. Lock and Rose, I used to like him. There's something going on. There's an underlying. What I've come to learn, okay, is I don't trust any of these people. I don't trust any of these conventions. The YouTube channels, like like Eric Dubay he was always my dude for flat Earth, but I don't trust him anymore. He's great for flat Earth stuff, but everything else, I don't. There's something going on. There's an agenda going on, that I just do not. I do not. There's something wrong. There is something very, very wrong going on. There is something so wrong, so wrong. Like this cryptocurrency stuff, all this occultism. Like there's I just don't. There's something wrong. There was something I wanted to point out. I marked this up a while ago. Um, Game of Thrones. I just wanted to point this out. Game of Thrones. You know, George R. Martin is he's a complete tool. This whole Game of Thrones thing. I don't understand it. It's the show is disgusting. Like it's the violence, the amount of violence in it. Okay, you have to understand. Watching this violence is not natural. Okay, when there's all this incest, all the incest. That's these things are. So I just want to point this out because he's clearly there's something about this post where he's actually talking about flat Earth. He's not talking about um, Excellent journalism is an oxymoron. I am more and more convinced. Of late, it seems like a news story somewhere on the net, blah, blah, blah. Okay, every so often, however, one of these stories gains improbable currency, and just chuckling it at insanity no longer suffices. That seems to be happening right now. All of a sudden, this crazy story about my finishing Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring years ago is popping up everywhere. No, I am not going to provide links. I do not want to reward purveyors of misinformation with hits. I will, however, say for the record, no Winds of Winter, Dream of Spring are not finished, Dreams is not even begun. I'm not going to start writing blah blah blah. Okay, now right here, it seems to me that I need to state this: the world is round, the Earth revolves around the sun, water is wet. Do I need to say that too? It boggles me that anyone would believe this story, even for an instant. It makes okay. So if you read this whole thing, right, and you just why would he bring that up? Like that is not that this was correlation without causation. The whole theory that world is round, Earth revolves around the sun. Okay, that does not correlate what he is talking about. So he clearly knows what's going on with the flat Earth. And I just wanted to bring that up. That's so fucking obvious. Like it's like he put that in there for a reason. Like he clearly put that in there for some agenda. And this guy, like he's a pervert. Like I don't know if you've seen what he looks like, but he is a pervert. Um, so I am a big fan of Japanese anime, especially the older ones, because they have a lot of I used to be. They have a lot of symbolism and a lot of hidden like occult stuff in there. I'm not a big fan of it anymore, but one of these is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I was just looking up some analysis on it, and came across this one where it basically talks about the Jews and how if you watch Neon Genesis Evangelion, it it goes a lot of the Hebrew stuff of like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Elders of Zion, and the people who control it are they're basically Jews, and it's just this post is pointing it out. How they're all the people in this like one organization that controls the world. They're all like hook nosed. They have like a certain stereotype, and I just wanted to point that out. They have this the world is round up there, up in the top middle. World is round, and it's God sitting there. Why would God have a news article saying the world is round? You know what I'm saying? And then this weird man arm on one thing. I don't know what that's all about. Um, so the Temple of Horus. I just wanted to go over the Eye of Horus.
But the Eye of Horus used to be written in all of the medical prescriptions.
Like with the RX symbol. Okay, this goes back into the whole idea of healing and health. And like the Jews and their connection to Egypt and all that. And when you look at this like whole one eye symbolism, really the one eye of Horus. And I'm starting, the more I think of this whole royalty thing, I'm thinking like the Jews are pretty much every royalty that you've ever heard of. They're a form of Jew. But it basically the Eye of Horus is the RX symbol that you would see from prescription medications. And just think of that, this whole there's a reason why Jews don't vaccinate. Jews don't vaccinate because they know what's going on. This is the medical system. This whole medical system is designed. It was designed by the Jews for the goyim. It's to control us. It's to keep us sick. It's to keep us in a state of ignorance and stupidity for as long as forever. It's just to keep us away from nature. And the Eye of Horus is the RX symbol that you would see on prescription
And that's
medication.
the art.
Um, so I just wanted to point that out, and I should probably just end this before I like really get too long here. An hour and a half. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, hopefully some of this information was good. I am doing amazing. So I guess I should just say in general, I am doing amazing in terms of my health and wellness. I am totally. This is the. It's go back to nature. Go back to your health. Go back to the way that you were born to be. It's just like geoengineering. Okay, use your common sense. Use your What does look up into the sky? Does your common sense dictate that this is what the sky should look like? And that's really the big point here is going back to nature. So yeah, hopefully everything came through okay for this. I really hope I don't have to do this again because like I'm not used to talking, so my voice is already raspy. Anyways, peace and love, everyone. Uh, Please, if you have any questions, ask me, and I will direct you to. I'll either be able to answer it, or I will direct you to the right proper place to go. All right, take it easy, everyone.